Okay, here's my first billboard attempt. I hate these things. Gotta make a faster intro. You know? That's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm back for the second show of the day. Today, 2024, July the 25th. And I just had a few things that I ran into online on the Twitters, and I thought I would share them with you. So here's a few images. Let's be clear, Hakeem Jeffries says. God, I hate that turn of phrase. Extreme MAGA Republicans want to end Social Security, Medicare as we know it. Yes, well, it's probably not even the extreme ones. That is to say, those two programs, if they continue in their current form, will bankrupt the country. It's just a question of when we're going to change them. So in this particular criticism, he is being accurate. So what he's not being accurate is that there's a reason. There's a reason for it. And but I mean, he doesn't really say that. Doesn't have to. Anyway, let's see. Can we admit that the vast majority of conservatives are just really dumb, says this Twitter person? No, that's the whole point. That's the interesting thing, and why the last statement is it is not perfect. And that is to say, it looks that way if you can't see the other side of things. Hakeem Jeffries is like, oh my God, they're going to change Medicare, Medicaid. Yes, we're going to save the country. There's a bright side. Okay. There's a flip side to things. You know, when you say things like, oh, we're going to have Medicaid for all, the flip side is it's not going to work because it's going to cost too much money. It's going to continue to absorb an infinite amount of money. It's going to grow infinitely. The wait lines are going to grow infinitely until the whole thing collapses because freedom is better than communism. Just the way that it is. Okay, next image. Now this is interesting. God, look at this. This is Conor McGregor, the notorious fighter. That's his actual name, the notorious Conor McGregor. He is a mixed martial arts fighter, and he is taking the piss completely out of this guy, Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is another UFC fighter. And both these guys were phenomenally successful. Conor is an Irishman, lives in Ireland, and he's made like $1 billion with his fights. Khabib is Dagestani, and he lives in Dagestan, USSR, or former USSR. Anyway, the interesting thing is that now Khabib, by all accounts, is an honorable guy. Nobody has ever said otherwise about Khabib. Everything about him is honor this, honor that. So the accusation against Khabib comes from his government. They claim he hasn't paid them a lot of money in taxes. And what they've done is confiscated his properties. And in order to take the piss out of him, his fighting rival, or one of his fighting rivals, has posted that intent to buy his house and other cars and such and desecrate them. Amazing. But what I really wanted to point out about this situation was the fact that the government has the ability to destroy this man over in his country. They took all of his shit. They just took it. Why? Just because he owes it to him. I don't know what the beef is. Maybe he does it to him. I mean, you can't owe it to him because it's theft any way you slice it. But maybe he legitimately owes them the tax money, that is to say, under their laws. But I would question even that. So we'll see, I guess. But it is freaking funny. Okay, Robert Reich. Now this may be an individual segment I will cut out here, because what he does here, he goes through a very nice little drawing segment. He's got these cool drawings that he can do, and he does these little things, and then he speeds it up nicely so that it doesn't waste your time. And The problem is that, and look, he's well qualified. He's whatever. He's been former Treasury Secretary, not Treasury, but Housing or something. And in any event, his conclusions about what to do are just terrible, terrible, terrible. Now, they kind of sound good on their face. Now, he suggests that the Supreme Court needs reform. And he throws out three things that we need to do real quick to reform them. First, he says we need to do term limits. Now, the whole point about the Supreme Court is no term limits. That is to say, you're protected. You're going to be on there. You can do whatever you want. And it makes you more powerful to be protected. The second thing is that it empowers the third branch of the government. The second thing is that and he points out that the power that the court has is all from the trust of the people. And I would point out that the power the court has is all negative. That is to say, all they can do is tell other lawmaking authorities how they can't act. And so they can't make laws. And the marshals wouldn't follow the laws, and the people wouldn't follow the laws if they tried to make laws. So they're really a not very powerful section of the triad, and that's why they need to have things like lifelong protection. Another thing that he wants to do is he wants to have a little ethics for the Supreme Court, a little ethics review. Now, ask yourself this: who's supposed to do that ethics review? That's the problem with having an ethics review for the Supreme Court of the United States. These are supposed to be your ethics leaders. And if you set up a body that's superlative to them, well, then they're really the ethics leaders, then aren't they? Right? I mean, if the Supreme Court, if those people can be impeached and removed for suspicion of improper rulings, then they're going to be beholden to the ethics reviewers. And then whoever those people are, once again, you've either created a fourth branch of government, or more likely, you've empowered the executive or the legislature. And then the third thing he wants to do is expand the Supreme Court. And he calls it unpacking because he says it's unbalanced right now. It's unbalanced. Well, look, that's just the way that it got to. And he says, well, he points out that it's been unbalanced or rebalanced or added and subtracted. People have been added and subtracted to the court 6 or 7 times in the past. And my question would be, what? So this is going to be the magical time? This is going to be it? Now the 7th time, the 8th time it's going to work? Come on, man. Come on, man. It's just a scheme. It's just a scheme. And unfortunately, everything that he's talking about just disempowers the court. And the court is the least powerful of the branches and needs to be more powerful. We'd be in a lot better position if the court were more powerful. The court has abdicated its role. See my brief at Amazon.com, where I go into it in excruciating legal detail, going back 150 years. And if they had not done that in times of war, and under duress from court packing and shit like that. But they certainly have given over power to the executive and the legislature in huge ways. So another thing that sucks. All right, let's see. One more thing here. Oh, shit, I didn't start the stream. Oh, well. All right, freedom. Kamala runs on freedom here, which is nice. It's a nice thought for her to say that. And she's got several things that back her up there. And some of the things that the Democrats run on are freedom-oriented. Freedom, for example, to immigrate, to move around in your country or between countries. That's a freedom that I recognize as being very important. And I agree with the Democrats that we should have as open an immigration policy as possible so long as we have a secure border. Freedom to control your body is another one. And this, of course, extends to freedom to control other people's bodies inside of your body. But basically everything, every type of ingestion, you should be able to drink raw milk if you want to. You should be able to stick yourself with drugs if you want to. Whatever it is you want to do to your own body, change your sex. If you're an adult, all these things should be available to you. I guess they want them for kids as well. What was that? Little spike right there. Anyway. Yes, these things are true and good, and that's part of the reason that I like the Democratic Party. Here are some other freedoms that they don't agree with: the freedom to protect your family with a gun. Not one of the Democratic freedoms. That's a Republican freedom. Freedom to work for who you want. Again, not a Democratic freedom. They want you to have to work for anybody who asks you to work for them. Doing what you want, not so much. You really, there's restrictions all over the place about what you can do and can't do. Both parties have restrictions on that. And who you want to work with, that is mostly restricted by the Democratic Party because, again, you can't hire and fire people willy-nilly. There are rules, unfortunately. So to those freedoms, they do not like. Freedom to keep your own money. Democrats hate that freedom. The freedom to do what you want if it doesn't hurt others. This is the guiding principle. If you want to know if a freedom is valid, ask yourself, is it something that hurts other people? If it is, then it's suspect at least and probably invalid. But if it doesn't, then your freedoms as an American should expand at least until they come up against somebody else's freedoms. And so that should be the guiding principle. All right, one more issue here. Let's see. Oh, Trump's border crisis. This is a little tiny thing. This is the kind of gaslighting. You see, Swalwell is big on the gaslighting. Whenever you see him talk, just know that it's probably a total bullshit comment. Trump's border crisis. Trump isn't even an elected official. Now I know what he's trying to say. He's trying to say Trump controlled, influenced, and therefore controlled the legislature, the Republican side of the legislature, when the Democratic side had proposed a border bill. And therefore Trump is effectively, de facto, in control of the border. Ridiculous. Look, Biden is in control because he's the president. He can do so much. He has so much power relative to the border. So there's no way you can stick that on him. This is the equivalent to them trying to stick the dementia thing on him. Like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got dementia. Sure, he does. Why aren't people talking about that? All right. Next time I'm going to fucking stream. All right. See you soon.